estate of a deceased that passed away. And number one, there are no ties of inheritance between a stepfather or a stepmother and his stepchildren. So that is the first point that we want to establish. The second point is that the relative of the husband does not inherit in the estate of his wife, nor does the relatives of the wife inherit from the estate of her husband. And thirdly, zina, fornication, adultery does not create ties of inheritance. So an illegitimate child will not inherit in the estate of its biological father, nor will such a man inherit in the estates of his illegitimate offspring. In the case of adoption does not bring about any ties of kinship, and nor does it affect the effect created by relationship. Adopted children do not inherit in the estates of their foster parents, nor do these parents inherit in the estates of their adopted children. However, there is an exception to this rule. A wasiyah, a will which has been made for the adopted children and the foster parents, this will be carried out, inshallah. We move on, inshallah, this week also to the inheritance. There are different classes of people who inherit. As I mentioned last week, we have Dhawil Furud, and Dhawil Furud, these are categories of people which have a definite share in the Holy Quran. And their shares are already fixed. You cannot change them, you cannot play around or alternate them. And the second type of people, we have Asaba Nasabiyya, which they are the inheritors entitled to the balance on the remaining portion of the estate. And then we have the Asaba Sababiyya, which are the slaves which are freed by the masters. And then you have, coming down, you have Rad, which are redistribution of Dhawil Furud, which is the excess from those people who are entitled to shares in the Holy Quran. And then you have Dhawil Arham, which are such relatives who are not members of Dhawil Furud or the second Asaba. Now, we have mentioned last week about the fractions in the Holy Quran. You have a half, you have a quarter, you have 1/8, and you have 2/3, you have 1/3, and you have 1/6. So besides these fractions which are mentioned in the Holy Quran, we cannot make up our own fractions. These are already stipulated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, who are really the people under Dhawil Furud? Who are the people that Allah have stipulated their fixed shares in the Holy Quran? They are from amongst the males and the females. So you have the males, you have al-wadithuna wal-wadithat min al-rijali wal-nisa. These are the males and females who inherit. Under the males who are entitled to portions stipulated by the Quran, you have the father, you have the paternal grandfathers, and you have the akhyafi, who are children born, they have the same mother, but different fathers. And then you have children who have the same father but different mothers. So you have these type of males coming under the Dhawil Furud, and you have the husband, last but not least. For the females, you have the wife. She is stipulated, as mentioned by Allah in the Holy Quran. You have the mother, you have the daughter, you have the son's daughter, you have the full brother and the half brother. What do I mean by full and half? Full siblings are siblings which are connected biologically. You have the same father, you have the same mother. But when you have half siblings, you either have a father and a mother, and the mother, she has her children from her previous marriage, and that becomes your half brother, your step brother, what we know it as. So these are people who fall under the female category. So first of all, let's talk about the father. The father will receive 1/6 of the estate when the person who passed away, let's say his son passed away. His son passed away and he leaves his father in the equation. The Mayyit and the deceased person who passed away, if he is survived by a son or his son's son, then the father's share will be 1/6. So if the deceased, let's say for example, I have my father. So my father passes away. I pass away and my father is there, and I have different people in the family as well. So let's say I pass away. How will my shares be determined? My father will receive 1/6 of my property if I have a son or if I have grandsons. You guys understand? That is when he will receive 1/6 of the property. he will receive 1/6, and the remaining balance of the estate, if anything remains, he will receive that plus 1/6 if I do not have any kids, any sons, or I don't have any grandsons. Right? That is when he will receive 1/6 and any remaining portion in the estate. This is how the shares are being entitled. The father will also remain, he will inherit portions of the estate if in capacity I do not leave any son or daughter. So if I don't have any daughter or I don't have any sons, then what happens is that he will receive and inherit portions of the remaining estate. After everything is shared, whatever is remaining from the estate, the father will inherit it. So this is where he becomes an asaba. Now, let's move on to the paternal grandfather. Who is the paternal grandfather? The father's father, right? That is the paternal grandfather. So the paternal grandfather, he inherits in the absence of the father. So let's say, for example, myself. If I have a father, and then the father has his father, which is my grandfather, the grandfather will only inherit if there is no father. So only if I do not have any father alive, then the grandfather will inherit. If my father is alive, he kicks out the grandfather. The grandfather doesn't inherit anymore. He's out of the equation. You guys understand? So these are some of the instances where the father and the grandfather inherits. Now, what about the brothers? Like, for example, you have brothers of the same mother but different fathers. These are called akhyafi. They have the same mother but they have different fathers. And akhyafi brothers as well as sisters, they will inherit in the estate if there is only one akhyafi brother or one akhyafi sister. So what is meant by this is that my brother, let's say for example, we came from the same mother but different fathers, he will inherit from the estate 1/6 of the estate if there is only one other brother, that is myself. He will inherit 1/6. And if there is more brothers, if I have like 2 other brothers, a part of the equation, well then he will inherit 1/6 plus the remaining balance, what is shared between all of us. And then you have, in cases where he will be kicked out of the equation, if the person who passes away, let's say my father passes away, and he leaves behind us, he will be kicked out if the following persons are alive. If my father leaves behind his legitimate son, grandson, daughter, the son's daughter, his father, and paternal grandfather, the half-brother, who is the step-brother, he will be kicked out of the equation. These are biological connections, will kick him out. These are scenarios where he will be deprived. Now, the husband, let's say for example, a husband passes away, right? And he has the wife passes away. How will the wife know what she will inherit? And on a similar note, you have the wife passes away, what will the husband inherit? Now, I will go across there in a short while, in about couple minutes, and I'll show you in a breakdown, how it is exactly that the people inherit, how much portions they will inherit, and how much they will take from the estate. It's very simple, mathematical calculations. By the time I finished doing the mathematical calculations, there was no space left in my memory to even think of anything else. So the husband, he has 2 states. The deceased has neither children or any grandchildren. In this case, the husband will inherit half of the estate. I'll repeat it. The husband will inherit half of the estate. If the wife passes away, he will inherit half of her estate. If they have no children or grandchildren, he will have half of the estate. And then you have situations where the wife passes away and she has children or grandchildren. If they have kids, in this scenario, the husband will have 1/4 of the estate. So this is how it is being determined and proportioned and so on when people pass away, like the wife passes away. Now, what happens if the wife, on the other hand, she leaves behind the husband, or the husband leaves behind the wife? The wife have 2 states of inheritance. If the deceased husband, let's say the husband passes away, and they have neither children nor grandchildren, the wife will inherit 1/4 of the estate if they have no children. And on the other hand, if they have children or grandchildren, the wife will inherit 1/8 of his estate. This is where the wife have children, where they have children or grandchildren, she will inherit what? 1/8 of the estate. And if they have no children, how much? A quarter of the estate. Right? And of course, the mother. The mother will inherit if the mayyit has children or sons, grandchildren. The mother's share will be 1/6. So if you have, like say for example, I pass away and I have a mother, and she has other sons as well in the equation. She will inherit 1/6 of my estate. If there is children or there is grandchildren, she will inherit 1/6 of the estate. And there are scenarios where if I pass away and I have more than one brother or sister, whether they are full brothers or they are step brothers, the mother's share is also 1/6, and this will apply to whether the brothers will inherit or not. She will still get her 1/6, regardless if I have more brothers or sisters. And then you have the daughters. The daughters, they have 3 scenarios. You have the daughters will inherit half of the estate of her parents. If the deceased has no sons but they have only one daughter, she will inherit half of the estate. So let's say, for example, hypothetically, I have a daughter, but I don't have any sons. If I pass away, she will inherit how much? Half of my estate. But if I have sons, her share will decrease, right? She will have 2/3 of the estate if there are 2 daughters, 2 or more daughters, and no sons. So if she has a sister or she has 2 sisters, she will inherit 2/3 of the estate. She will not get half. On the other hand, if I have sons, right, then the daughters will share with the sons. The sons will receive twice the amount of the daughters. So they will take twice the portion, and the daughters will take 1 share. So let's say, for example, it has to be split. The sons will take twice the amount of the daughters. Everybody understand? Right. And then you have granddaughters. And granddaughters, they have about 6 scenarios where the granddaughters will inherit a certain amount of share. Granddaughters will inherit 1/2 of the estate. If the deceased has only 1 granddaughter and no children, she will inherit half the estate. Everybody understand? Now, granddaughters will inherit 2/3 of the estate in the absence of children. So if there is no children, let's say for example, I pass away. I have kids and I have grandkids. My granddaughters will inherit if I have no children. They will inherit. So they will inherit 2/3 of the estate. Now there are scenarios where granddaughters will inherit 1/6 of the estate if the mayyit, if I have 1 daughter or more than 1 granddaughters, they will inherit 1/6 of the estate. So if I have a daughter and I have many granddaughters from that, then the granddaughters will inherit 1/6 of the estate. Now this is just for reference. There's so much calculation, so much to be taken into consideration when doing inheritance. You just don't randomly pick and choose who will receive what. So let's go across, inshallah. Everybody can come this side. So we'll do the actual figures of who receives what. I will show you some examples of what I just mentioned. So there are different fractions in the Holy Quran. You have 1/2, you have 1/4, and you have 1/8, right? Let's say this is group 1. Group 1. Then you have the second group that receives 1/3, 1/6, and you have 2/3 of the estate. Let's call this group 2. Jama'atu Thani, GR. Group 2. So these are the 2 groups, right? Now, in maths, you know, those of you who are very good with maths, the top number is called the what? Numerator, right? And the bottom number is called the denominator, right? So the top and the bottom numbers, you have numerator and you have the denominator. Now let's say, for example, I'm going to give you an example. A husband passes away and he left behind a daughter, he left behind a wife, and he left behind an uncle. So he passed away and he left behind his wife, daughter, and he has an uncle, right? What are some of the scenarios that we can be able to calculate? Now bear in mind, the daughter will get half of the estate if she has no other siblings. If she has no more sisters or brothers, she will inherit half of the estate. Now, how do you calculate the denominator? This is the very important factor. This bottom number, it is very important to find the denominator and make it common, and that will determine how much everybody receives. This bottom number here is very important. So if we look at the first group, let's take for example, one person receive half of the estate, right? Another person receive 1/8 of the estate. So based on who's alive in the family, you have a person taking half of the estate, and another person taking 1/8 of the estate. And then you have the uncle. The uncle is basically the asaba. He will take the remaining shares after these people have their shares. Yeah. Paternal uncle, right? So let's look at how it will be decided. Now, lowest common denominator, and then you have highest common denominator, right? So what is the actual lowest number that you can be able to find between these two? So let me show you how exactly you do it. You have 2 1s 2, 2 2s 4, 2 3s 6, 2 4s 8, 2 5 10, 2 6 12, 2 7s 14, 2 8 16, and you keep going on, right? So that is how you will find the denominator. And then you have 8. You have 8 1s 8, 16, 24, and you keep going. Now you have to look at what is common between these two. What is common between these two? You have 8, because you have 8 here and you have 8 here. Because 2 is not found in 8. So 8 is found in both of them, so the common denominator becomes 8, right? Now you will times 8, 1 over 2 times 8 over 1. 8 1s, 8. 2 1s, 2. How much time 2 can go into 8? 4 times. So how much shares you have? 4. So the person who is having half of the estate, he's entitled to 4 shares. You understand? So that is one portion. And then you have the person who is inheriting 1/8 of the estate. You have 1/8 times 8 over 1. 8 1s, 8, and 8 1s, 8. When you cancel out both of them, you have 1 share. So they will only get 1 share. Right? These are how much the people they will inherit. These are how much shares they will inherit. This person will have 4 shares, and this person will have 1 share. Now, 4 on 1, 5. How much remains? 3. The uncle will get the remaining 3. You guys understand? He is the uncle who is inheriting the rest of the 3. Now, let's say, for example, let's put it into practical finance. Let's say, for example, this person passes away and they leave behind, let's say, what, $10,000. How are we going to divide $10,000 now with all of this, right? It's very simple, but you just have to understand. What's that? Yes. That's exactly how you do it. So the 10,000 is divided by the 8. Because what is common between the two is that. Now you have to bear in mind as well, if the deceased has debts, you have to take it out. If the deceased has any type of burial expenses, you have to take it out. When you take all of that out, then you will divide it by the 8. Now let's say, for example, all of that is taken out and you have 10,000. Now it has to be divided between 8. Right? You have 8 people, 8 shares going between different people. So you have here 8 divided by 10,000 divided by 8 is how much? 1,250. Inshallah. So you have 1,250. What do you do with this 1,250? You times it by the 4. So 4 times 1,250. How much is that? 5,000. 5,000. And then you have 1 times 1,250. You have the same 1,250. Now you have 3. The uncle is receiving the rest of the estate. So you have 3 times 1,250. How much? 37.50. Very good. 37.50. Right? Now you add all of that. How much you get? 10,000, right? You get back the number. That's how you know when your calculation is correct. Right? You get back the actual number. Sometimes you don't get it back correctly, but if you have it, then alhamdulillah, your problem is solved. Now, you have many other scenarios. You have many other examples. I can list and I can work it out for you, but you follow the same steps. who is receiving half of the estate, you list down how much they're receiving, and you list down you find their common denominator.
The calculation is simple. We can all figure it out.
Very simple.
Assigning share,
That's the problem. That's the tricky problem. And also, what's tricky as well, some people kick out people from the equation. That is what is tricky. So for example, if you have a whole entire family, some people might cause some people to not get anything at all. Like for example, if you have the grandfather and the father is there, if the father is there, the grandfather doesn't get anything. Right? If the wife is there and she have one kid, how much she will receive? 1/4 of the estate. Right? So these are some of the things that will deprive some people of getting shares as well. And many a times people, might not study, or they'll run away from these calculations thinking that it is very difficult. But in reality, if you really do it, it's very simple. The tricky part is just to know who gets what, who stays, and who is kicked out of the equation. So as long as you find out who remains, basically it's just putting it down and you're solving your problems. I'm planning, inshallah, for those of you who are remaining, those of you who are very interested, I have a list of everyone and how much they will receive in case of some people remains in the family. This is very important. No matter how much I can put it up and you guys will see it, you will not remember it by memory. This is something you have to get and document. So this is, basically the calculation. Yeah. Copies of it and distribute it, yes. In that way, you guys will be able to see exactly how much and who receives what. Because there are certain times when you have many grandkids, and then if sons are alive, the granddaughters might not necessarily inherit much. And then you have scenarios where you have great-grandkids, you have grandkids, and then you have kids. How much the great-grandkids will inherit. That is one type of an aspect as well. You have, for example, sometimes you have the family, and you have the maternal uncle, maternal aunts, paternal uncle, paternal aunts. Some of them will remove some. Not everyone will inherit. So depending on what relationship they have to the deceased person, that's how they will inherit according to their fractions. So this is, basically how to work it. Everybody understand? Yeah, yes sir.
My father dies. So here, the step or the half brother that my mother has another son from another father. I thought he does not get anything.
They will not receive anything as long as the father passes away. As if the mother is alive, they will get. Yes. Mother is common. If the father passes away, he will not receive anything because they have children. Same thing with adoption as well. Adoption, if you adopt someone, they will not receive anything. And then you have scenarios where, let's say for example, myself. I am married to Jill. I'm married to Jill, and then I was previously married to Jane. Right? I have X amount of kids with Jill, and I have X amount of kids with Jane. If, for example, my wife passes away, my second, Jane passes away, that will affect how much the other kids will have. So stepsons, it will affect how much the actual biological sons will receive. Many a times it will eliminate the stepchildren because the biological is what will take precedence most of the time. So this is, some scenarios. But again, as I mentioned, there's so many notes to just do in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, especially to tell you how much we'll receive what. This is something you have to get in a booklet, study it, and when you come, we just work the calculation. Some classes are like that. It's not like, you could teach everything in one class. Yes. Yes. So next class, inshallah, I have like about 3 more classes with you guys. The next class, inshallah, I will break it down and show you who receive half, who receive 1/8, who receive 2/3, who receive how much. This is basically to show you how to calculate. My last set of classes will be who receive what fractions, and then we will end it, inshallah. Yes, and distribute it, inshallah. So I leave it at the back. You guys can take 1 copy on the way out, inshallah. Alright, barakallahu feek. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.